Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So first offer some prayers to my teachers and preparing to speak something by their mercy. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Kananjana Shavakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitanscha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is Tushta Krishna Prabhu is stated. Today is the first day of Kartik Mas. Mas means month. So this, starting with the Purnima, which is the full moon today. For the entire next month, we're having a festival called Kartik, when there's going to be many festivals within that. So Kartik is a time for reflection, to go inward. And this time of the month, or this time of the year, especially in Colorado, we get to see beautiful trees changing, right? We went on a hike yesterday and it's like yellow, bright reds, and just super pleasing. But at the same time, it's pleasing visually. What's happening? Everything's going inward. Right? So in the Greek tradition, right, the Greeks and the Romans, they thought Persephone, she's going into the underworld, which is very symbolic, right? Persephone, she comes out. Demeter, it's springtime, everything's full, everything's growing, there's creation. And then summertime, it's time to enjoy, right? Bask in the sun, and you go outward. And then going outward, you come back in, right? That's the cycle of life. Going out, coming back home. Going out, coming back home. It's like a parabola. Going out and then coming back with learned experience. And so this time of the year, everything's going inward. Reflection time, right? It was just Yom Kippur, different festivals where we think about atonement, what we've done, where we've been, how to assimilate that knowledge within us and then hibernate, right? And sometimes that can be a little scary. Hibernation, right? We get that idea that we're stuck inside, or, thinking about a bear going in a dark cave, which goes back to Persephone, going to the underworld, going inside. And we're living in times where it's hard to be still. It's hard to go inside. It's hard to go inward. There's so many news stories, so many things flashing before us, right? And things are going so fast. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but this year is almost already up, October, and we're going into a time where there's so many things going on, so many big stories, and they just blur right by us, that it's hard to take that deep inside. Right? If you're absorbing things, and there's a new story, something new, something new, something new, it's hard to really just sit and be still. Jai Shishigoranitai. Jai Shishi Radha Govindadeva Ki Jai. Jai Shishi Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. It's hard to be still with everything going on. Our eyes and our senses are taking in so many things, and just to be still and breathe in and out and just slow the mind. Right? It's very difficult. In Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna and Arjuna, they're having a deep conversation about this, and Arjuna, he asks Krishna a very important question. There's this term called sthita pragya. Sthita pragya means self-realized soul. Sthita actually in Sanskrit means to be still or to be firm. Hold on to. Pragya means knowledge or wisdom. So sthita pragya literally means one who's firm in knowledge, one who's standing on wisdom. And Arjuna, he wants to know, how is it that one who's in wisdom, how do they sit? How do they speak? How do they walk? What are the symptoms of one who's sthita pragya? Meaning that when they sit, how do they withdraw the senses from the sense objects? How do they speak? What do they experience when one gives them praise or one experiences blame? How do they act within the world in so many ways? So Krishna, he talks about the sthita pragya, one who's able to be like a tortoise. What does a tortoise do? It's able to pull its head in, hands, legs, go into a shell, and be still. And so being a tortoise, being a yogi, being sthita pragya. Now there's a beautiful purport to a verse that I want to read from Bhagavad Gita. So this is chapter 2, verse 66. That Krishna states, the context of this verse is that the sthita pragya, one who's still, one who is able to withdraw the senses, one who's fixed in knowledge, is that way because of receiving the mercy of God. Prasad means mercy. So when one tries to still the mind, one attempts to meditate, go inward, there's reciprocation. And we're going to talk about how Kartik is all about reciprocation. And so Krishna states that one has to have the mercy of the Lord to get a higher taste. And then one can give up lower tastes of this world. So Krishna states in text 66, one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Very important verse for the times. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada states, unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, chapter 5, text 29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. Sink that in. I'll read it one more time. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who's engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. However much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested, peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. So, to really meditate on that, disturbance is due to a lack of an ultimate goal. And so, for those new and old here, what are we doing with our life? What are we doing in Krishna consciousness? What is the goal? Now, there are relative and ultimate goals, right? We see this in the world, how there's so many relative goals that we have. Some are important for keeping the body and mind peaceful, right? Getting good grades in school, working a job, doing so many short-term relative goals to this body and mind to have a peaceful life. But then the ultimate goal. What is the ultimate goal? Krishna Prema, to love God. And so there's two words that I want to focus on called Sadhana and Sadia. So for those who want to learn Sanskrit, can everyone say sadhana?
Sadhana.
And can everyone say sadhya?
Sadia.
So just knowing these two words, you can become a Sanskrit scholar. Sadhana and Sadia. So what is Sadia? Means goal. Sadhana is the means to get to that goal. And sadhu, saintly person, is one who gives you the goal, gives you the practice to achieve that goal. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out disturbances in this world. Everyone thinks that their relative goals are the most important goals in life. Right? Some people want to annex parts of Ukraine as a relative goal. Some people want to earn as much wealth as possible, turn that into an ultimate goal. Some people want to have as much sense gratification, have the biggest car, the biggest house. The bigger, the better, right? This is our ultimate goals in life that are actually relative goals, but we're mixed up on who we are as the spirit soul. So all the relative goals that we have is based on this body, our psychophysical nature. And it's okay to focus on those relative goals. It's very important. But not to lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is reciprocation and focusing on having a relationship with Krishna. Then you'll have real peace, be able to bring out real peace. So there's, in Sadhana and Sadia, we were meditating earlier this week that there was a Brahmana. Brahmana means a learned person, studies the Vedas, and yet he didn't know what the proper sadhana or sadhya was. If you don't have a proper goal, you don't know what the practice is. Even if you practice, you might have a certain sadhana. If you're not clear on the goal, what will be the fruit? And so he was weeping and praying day in, day out. What is the purpose of my life? What is the goal of my life? And for 99% of the people to really think deeply about this, it's life-changing. It's a struggle because everything's flashing before us so fast. It's easy just to go on mechanically with our days rather than just to sit still and think about life. And coming to Kartik, we have this theodrama that's played out. There's ego drama and theodrama. Ego drama, we're the center of the universe. All of our relative truths are the most important. I'm the center of the universe. Everyone else is an NPC, right? Non-player character. Throw out simulation theory there. So this can be a huge battle. Why? I'm the most important person in the universe. He's thinking he's the most important person in the universe. Now we have to battle to make ourselves the center. Everyone is thinking that they're the center. And then everybody battles because of that. But theodrama, or Krishna drama, means to put God, Krishna, in the center. And so with Kartik Vrata, Kartik is that month which just shoves Krishna drama right into our face. We can't ignore it. We forget about so many of these relative truths, and we're able to focus on the ultimate truth. Why? Because Kartik Vrata, Kartik Mas, whatever one does during this month, chanting Hare Krishna, coming to the temple, offering a candle, especially singing Damadar, Krishna will take 10,000 steps towards you. It's that time of the month where Tushta was saying, even if you're unaware of it, whatever you do, it's amplified thousands of times. There's so much Shastra based on that. But Kartik, Krishna drama that's displayed, the mas is also called, the month is called Damodar. Name of God, which means one who's bound by the belly. What a beautiful name of God, Damodar. Dama, bound, Udara, belly, one who's bound. Bound by prema, by love. So Damodar Mas, we sing this Damodar Ashtakam. Ashtakam means 8 verses in the prayers of Damodar. And in the Damodar Ashtakam, the goal becomes very, very clear. That it's all about love, intimacy, vulnerability. Right? We look at the goals of different religions and spirituality. Right? Sometimes people take to religion to amplify their material life, to get a better house, get more wealth, enjoy in this world through, oh God, please give me this, give me that. I'm going to atone for my sins so that I can live a better life and forget about you. Right? That's sometimes religion. Spirituality, in the same way, I'm going to connect with the universe so that I can tap into my abundance. Same. It's material way of looking at religion and spirituality. Then there's escapism, which just get me out of this material world so that I don't have to deal with anybody or anything anymore. I just want to become nothing, because becoming nothing is better than being something. Because being something means I have to deal with so much stress and so many people. Just make me into nothing, and I'll just be nothing and peaceful. So many different goals of religion and spirituality. And then we come to bhakti, which, again, some here, they're coming to see Krishna because they want wealth. They're coming to Krishna because they don't want anything. They just want to be liberated. Escapism. But the real goal of bhakti, and you're all here to hear this, the real goal is about intimacy, vulnerability, and love. To be intimate with God. What does that mean? And this is where we come to Damadar Leela. The pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam, the secret of Srimad Bhagavatam is intimacy. Damodar, how does Krishna become bound? There's a very important verse to discuss before going into this Leela. Trayo chopanishadbhischa sankhya yogaischa sattvatai upagiyamanam mahatmyam harim samanya tatmajam. The Vedas, the Upanishads, Sankhya Yoga, the Sattvatas, the different Vaishnav literatures, all Vedic literature. What does it say? Krishna's the supreme personality of Godhead. God is the ultimate truth. This is all Shastra, all scripture of all time says the same thing. The absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. But what does this verse add on? Harim samanyatatmajam. All these scriptures, all these verses saying that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Mother Yashoda, she's thinking that Krishna is an ordinary boy. Samanya, ordinary. Samanya Atmajam. Her son, who's the supreme personality of Godhead, to the yogis, the sages, they're offering Vedic prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya. Right? Just an ordinary boy to Mother Yashoda. This is the verse that gives us entrance into Srimad Bhagavatam to understand that Krishna, who's Varahadev, lifting up the earth from the ocean of devastation, Nisringadev, who saves Prahlad, kills Hiranyakashipu. So many different incarnations, Matsya avatar, Kurma avatar, so many incarnations, and yet how powerful they are. Krishna, he becomes the plaything of the devotees in Vrindavan. So going to Vrindavan in Kartik, right? So many people are on their way to Vrindavan now to spend the next month meditating on the love of Vrindavan. But we're here with Radha Govinda. Srila Prabhupada's mercy is that we can be in Vrindavan wherever we are by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And so what happens? One morning, Mother Yashoda, she wakes up early. What has she done? She's milked the most finest cows. Cows that produce milk that taste just like nectar. Why? Because Krishna, Makanchor, right? In Makanchor, he's stealing butter. He's stealing yogurt. He's going to all the different households in Vrindavan, and he's a thief. He's stealing. But what is he stealing, really? Butter, yogurt. Understanding that these are devotees who have topmost love for Krishna. This is not just yogurt or butter. This is the manifestation of their love for God. As Krishna states in Bhagavad-Gita, whether you give him patram pushpam palam toyam, you give him a leaf, you give him water, you give him a flower, whatever you do with love and offer that to God, he accepts that and reciprocates. And so, Mother Yashoda, she's the queen of Vrindavan. She's the mother of Krishna. How can God have a mother? How can God be born? This is another mystery that perplexes us and bewilders us. But Mother Yashoda, she's churning butter. That she's gotten the best milk from the best cow. She's churning butter. She's going to turn it into yogurt because none of the other servants know how to do it. And while she's doing this, she's singing songs of Krishna, talking about how Krishna killed Putana, the witch who came to Vrindavan, killed Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, performed so many pastimes. She's singing songs, just like we sing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada says, if you don't know so many songs about Krishna's pastimes, you just sing the Maha Mantra, and it has all of the pastimes within it. Keep it simple. So, Mother Yashoda is singing. Krishna wakes up, rubs his eyes. Little child climbs out of his bed. He's thirsty. He's hungry. What does he do? Mother Yashoda's churning. He grabs her hand and stops her from churning butter and wants to drink milk. Mother Yashoda places Krishna on her breast and he's drinking milk. But she's engaged in service. Milk starts boiling over. Now for those who are Rasika Vaishnavas, a little tidbit here. The milk. Everything in Vrindavan is full of consciousness. So, Mother Yashoda, being the embodiment of bhakti, the manifestation of her love to Krishna is her breast milk, which is endless. And Krishna, who we just heard in the previous chapter, Mother Yashoda looks into the mouth of Krishna. What does she see? She sees the universal form. All of the universes are within Krishna. And so inside Krishna is endless. Mother Yashoda's breast milk is endless. Krishna's belly is endless. This pastime is going to go on forever. See, the children are getting excited for milk. Babies. So this pastime is going to go on forever. There's not going to be an end to Krishna drinking. And so the milk boils over. And Mother Yashoda, she puts Krishna down. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Absolute Truth, she's going to neglect him, put him down, and take off the milk on the stove. As Srila Prabhupada says that this is Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. That in spiritual life we have to put one thing before another. The milk is for the satisfaction of Krishna. Mother Yashoda's entire consciousness is just meant to be serving Krishna, and this milk is also for Krishna. So putting down Krishna, it's not an offense to put him down and go tend to this milk, but Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge, bites his lower lip and he becomes angry. What does he do? He picks up a stone and he breaks the yogurt pot. Breaking the yogurt pot, yogurt comes out, dahi, there's dahi everywhere. And Krishna takes that dahi and he starts feeding the monkeys, starts feeding the crows. He's feeding everyone that he can feed, including himself. Mother Yashoda, she turns around, where's Krishna? Where is he gone? Oh, she looks down and she sees the broken yogurt pot. And there's little footprints in the yogurt. She follows those footprints. What does she see? There's an overturned mortar for grinding spices. Krishna's sitting on top of it and he's feeding all the monkeys yogurt. Mother Yashoda, he just did this. I have to punish my child. So, Sankhya, yogis, great Paramahamsas, they're reading scriptures, understanding that Krishna, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mother Yashoda, I have to go punish the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bewildering to the mind. Mother Yashoda takes up a stick, puts it under her cloth. She starts sneaking up on Krishna. And Krishna, right? Whenever some of us have stolen things before, what happens when you're a thief? You start looking this way, that way. You're trying to make your eyes everywhere to see if somebody's coming to get you, right? You're paranoid when you steal something. So Krishna's looking everywhere. Mother Yashoda's sneaking up with the stick to wag at him. And all of a sudden he sees Mother Yashoda and takes off, starts running. Mother Yashoda, she starts running after him. She's running around the courtyard trying to chase Krishna. And finally, she grabs him. And what does Srimad Bhagavatam state? The yogis, the meditators, those who are stitya pragya, self-realized souls, they're trying to capture Krishna, but they never can. Krishna is caught by the love of Mother Yashoda. Right? She had a yellow sari on. She was hurrying about. She had flowers in her hair. All of those flowers fell out of her hair. Her sari is disheveled. She's chasing after Krishna. And now she's got Krishna. He's rubbing his eyes with his two lotus hands. He's fearful. His breathing is quick. Mother's going to beat me. She has a stick. Queen Kunti, right? Those who know Mahabharata, Kunti is the mother of Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthir, Nakula and Sahadev. She has such a huge role in Mahabharata. She has a beautiful prayer in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, stating how it's bewildering to her that fear personified, Bhayam, is afraid of Krishna, and yet Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. And for this, she said, I cannot understand this. It's bewildering to my mind. And Krishna's not faking it. He's actually afraid. He's placed himself under Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda throws away the stick. She doesn't actually want to chastise her son. She's just threatening. And Krishna, he's saying, why are you punishing me? I didn't take any yogurt. What did Krishna do? When he ran away from Mother Yashoda, he covered his body in dust to cover up the dahi. Cover up the dahi. So Mother Yashoda grabs him. You broke the yogurt pot? No. You know what happened? Actually, when you were chasing after me, your Nupur, your ankle belt, it actually hit the yogurt pot and the yogurt spilled out. Actually, you did it. He tries to blame it on her. And there's this quarrel of love going back and forth. And Mother Yashoda, she has so much household chores to do now. She had a whole plan. Krishna, he was just afraid he could run away again. There's this mortar. I'm going to tie him up so that he can't leave anywhere. He won't be able to go with his friends, the other gopas, the cowherd boys. He won't be able to run away into the forest. He'll just be bound here. So Mother Yashoda, what does she do? She takes some ropes and she puts them around the grinding mortar. She puts them around Krishna and she starts to tie. And there's this beautiful verse. Talked about stilling the mind. So everybody still the mind and let this sink within your heart. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all-pervading. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there's no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times, being absolute, beyond relativity. He is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. That unmanifested person who is beyond the perception of the senses had now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. And as she's trying to bind Krishna, what happens? It's 2 fingers too short. And so what happens? She gets more rope. She gets more rope, ties it together, tries to bind Krishna, 2 fingers too short. How is this possible? She gets more rope, starts trying to bind, 2 fingers too short. She's struggling. She's perspiring. She's struggling like anything just to tie him up, 2 fingers too short. Other ladies, they come out of the houses and they're saying, oh, Mother Yashoda, you caught Krishna finally. He's coming to our homes and stealing butter and yogurt, but now you're trying to bind Krishna up and punish him, and now you're unable to. And she's struggling. She's perspiring. Bhagavatam says parishrama. Parishrama means with great endeavor. Parishrama. Srila Prabhupada translates it as she was now overworked and feeling fatigued, right? Everybody here has been overworked and fatigued in one point of their life. And Mother Yashoda, she's fatigued. She's struggling just to bind him up. And Krishna finally allows her to bind him up. And this is the pastime of Damadar Leela. And this is what's spoken about in the Damodarashtakam, glorifying this beautiful pastime of binding Krishna up. How is the Supreme Personality of Godhead bound up and captured within our heart? Because of love. It's not a forceful, yogic situation where we're trying to capture the Lord, but we're in such a way using our intelligence, and this is what sadhana, that word sadhana, is all about, sitting down to still the mind, to chant the holy names, reading the pastimes of Krishna, sadhana, to obtain the goal of love for Krishna, which is what Mother Yashoda has. She has unconditional love for Krishna. So Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's worshipped by so many people. We think about God found in other religions, how he's an old man sitting on a throne, judging everybody, and he's all alone on the throne. But this is not the God that we hear about in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna states that those who worship with awe and reverence, veneration, God, it's very weak. God, in Vrindavan, becomes a little child. Nobody thinks that he's God. So you're able to have intimacy with Krishna. If you think that God is the supreme, how can you wrestle him? How can you chastise him? How can you engage in the most intimate pastimes with him if you're constantly thinking that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And this is why Damodarashtakam and the Damodar month gives us the perfect sadhya, the goal of what Krishna consciousness is, to have intimacy and vulnerability with God, who also becomes intimate and vulnerable. Krishna's crying. Krishna's rubbing his eyes, fearful of Mother Yashoda. God becomes vulnerable. How amazing is that? That theological understanding that God becomes vulnerable. It's amazing. And this verse, when it talks about Mother Yashoda actually binding Krishna up, our teachers give us a very, very deep understanding of what 2 fingers too short means. Parishrama, kripaya. You have the hard work, our sadhana. Sadhana, our practice. We're going to set aside time every day to meditate on God, to worship God, to chant Hare Krishna, to know about God, and to gather with others who also love God. Sadhana. So that's parishrama, doing the work. And the kripaya is when Krishna sees your hard work, then he reciprocates. He becomes merciful. And those 2 fingers that are apart, they meet. And a simple analogy is given that if somebody's in a well, right? Somebody's trapped in a well, and you're struggling, saying, please help me, please help me, please help me. And you're fatigued. Somebody drops a rope down. Kripaya, that's mercy. But what do you have to do? You have to grab onto the rope. If the rope is there and you just keep calling out, help me, help me. Person, I gave you the rope. You just have to grab onto the rope. So our sadhana and sadhya, understanding our practice and goal. Sometimes in our practices, we were speaking about this a little bit this morning, right? We can have the mentality, well, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm doing the work. God, where's my material enjoyment? That new car that I want. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm doing the work. Where is it? Where's my new house? But spiritual life doesn't work like that. It's dynamic. There has to be kripaya. There has to be faith. So faith and works meets in this pastime. There's the logic of the monkey and the logic of the cat. The baby monkey has to hold on to the mother as the mother's swinging from tree to tree. Logic of the cat is the mother picks up the kitten by the neck, and the kitten doesn't have to do anything. But we have to put these together. Works and faith. Faith that Krishna is going to take care of me and reciprocate with what I'm doing. But it's on his own time. I'm not going to force the situation. And it's about love, unconditional love. Is there unconditional love where you're constantly expecting from your beloved reciprocation? Oh, it flows naturally, right? Obviously, relationships need work. Anybody who's been in a 15-year-long or longer relationship understands relationships, they need work. But you also need to allow time to have intimacy flow naturally. Otherwise, it'll become another obstacle in the relationship. So leaving with that most amazing focus on intimacy and vulnerability, how the devotee and Krishna in this time of Damadar Leela, they become full of intimacy and vulnerability. And today, it's also Maharas Leela, so beautiful painting that we have here, and most people know about the Ras Leela. Krishna Book, Krishna dances with Srimati Radharani and the gopis, and the intimacy and vulnerability that's spoken of in the Damadar Leela, it's amplified to the billionth degree in Ras Leela, which is celebrated tonight, which we will bow our heads and approach very carefully. If anybody wants to dive deep into the Ras Leela, there's a beautiful book, Mother Nidra has it on her table, called Krishna Book, where Srila Prabhupada beautifully gives the Ras Leela pastime. So anybody who wants to explore even more vulnerability and intimacy, it's all found in the Maharasa Leela. Ras Leela actually takes place every Purnima. Every full moon, there's Ras Leela. But autumn time, this is the Maharas Leela that's fully explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, which has so many great instructions. So today we talked about reflection, how this time is to go inward, meditate. What is our practice? What is our goal? If we understand that the goal is love of God, and what type of love of God? Unconditional love. What is the practice? Chanting Hare Krishna, chanting the Damodarashtakam, learning from Srimad Bhagavatam, what it means to enter into Vrindavan. And all of this is easily given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has brought Vrindavan all over the world. And so even though we're in Denver, Colorado, we're able to enter into Vrindavan through Srimad Bhagavatam, through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, by simply chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Please forgive any mistakes that I may have said. And Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Damadar Kartik Vrata ki jai. Jai. Hare Krishna.